They're here! Okay, these are the Bowers Wilkins Px8 S2s. It's the second generation of their flagship noise cancelling headphones. Earlier this year we had the Px7 S3s, which was the update to their mid-range. It's kind of their entry level, which sounds wrong for Bowers Wilkins, but if you don't want to spend all the money on the Px8s, you go for the Px7s. The Px7 S3s are better than the original Px8s. These are the Px8s, which left a lot of people saying, okay, so Bowers Wilkins have brought out these new mid-range, entry-level, whatever you want to call it for Bowers Wilkins consumer ANC headphones that sound better than their existing flagship Px8s. But the Px8s have been around for a long time. Should I buy the Px7 S3s or should I wait for the Px8 S2s? Well, now we have the Px8 S2s, and the big question, obviously, is, are these better than the Px7 S3s? I hope you're following. I'm trying to follow myself with this. Are they better than the Px7 S3s, and are they better or significantly better than the original Px8s? That's the question which I can actually answer in this video, because I've had these for a couple of weeks now, and well, we'll get to that very quickly. Although this video isn't sponsored, we have lots of very lovely brand partners who help me keep the lights on in this studio, and one of them is Brain FM. Brain FM is an app for your iPhone or your Android device, which basically pipes this kind of productivity music and sounds and stuff into your head, which can make you more productive. Not guaranteed, obviously, but I cannot work without Brain FM. I've used it now for over 3 years, and if I'm writing or doing anything where I really need to get into the zone, Brain FM is my companion for that. We've got a fantastic deal for you. The link is down below. We do get a kickback. It's an affiliate thing. Anyway, let's get into the Px8 S2s. As always, let's start with the specs, and they're quite similar, the Px8 S2s, compared to the previous generation. So they have a lot of the same internals, the same dedicated discrete amp and DSP, the same Bluetooth setup, the same codec support, the same 30 hours of battery. You get 7 hours from a 15-minute charge. Even the noise cancelling is pretty much the same, I think. So you might be thinking, what on earth have they done over the last few years to make these better than these? Well, there's two things, really. The first thing is the audio, and the second thing is the design and the comfort. Audio I'll come on to, but they do have brand new 40mm carbon cone drivers with a newly redesigned chassis, coil and suspension. So completely, the thing that you'd want them to change really is that driver, and it's completely new. The other thing they've changed is the design and the look and feel. Now, on the face of it, they may look very similar. Original Px8s, Px8 S2s. However, put them on your head and they're completely different. They also look different in person. So the Px8 S2s have gone down the Px7 S3 route of having a much slimmer profile. So these cones are much, much thinner compared to the original Px8s. And for someone like me, who is follically challenged, that's good news because they don't stick out as much. They didn't before, but they just look better on your head if you don't have any hair. And that's quite a niche thing, I guess, but you're in this position, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. In terms of the padding, by the way, they use Napa leather. The Px7 S3s don't use proper leather, but these do have proper leather. But in terms of the comfort, they are more comfortable, I think, than the Px8. The Px8s are very comfortable, but these, there's just something about them. They sit, like I say, tighter to your head. The cushioning on the headband is better, I think. And they just feel much more secure without being too heavy. Are they any heavier or lighter? Who knows? We'll put the specs down here in terms of the weight difference. But I've been wearing these for long stretches of time, and you don't get any kind of fatigue or anything. So design is much better. The other thing they've done, thankfully, is change the button setup. So on the original Px8s, most of the buttons were on one ear cup, which made them quite difficult to work out what was what. What they've done now is the same thing that they did on the Px7 S3s, and they've split the play controls and the power on and the custom button thing here. So you basically have far less buttons on one ear cup, which means finding the right one is fine. And there's still no touch controls. Thank you, Bowers Wilkins. Keep doing that. Never go to touch controls, please. The case, I think, is a bit different. Now I'm looking at it. It is slightly different. It's still Bowers Wilkins in terms of the size of it, which is a little bit big. You know, I'm a bit of a headphone case obsessive is probably the best word, and I do get a bit annoyed with big cases. It's not on the annoying scale, it's just I'd like it a little bit smaller. And again, the reason it's not smaller is because they just fold like that. They don't do the whole folding like that, which that's one thing I'd ask for in the future. Bowers & Wilkins, please, that's it. But yeah, Design, much better, much comfier. They look even nicer. They just look better than the Px8 S3s as well, which is important to get that distinction. The price is the same as the Px8s were at launch, so $629 in the UK, $799 in the US, and $729 in Europe. That means they are £230 more expensive than the Px8 S3s in the UK. And the big question is, do they sound better? If you're new to this channel, I should note that I don't do in-depth headphone testing and analysis because I find it deeply boring. I'm not an audiophile, I just know what I like, and I test most headphones that come on the market, so I have a very good grounding for the opinion that I'm about to give you on the Px8 S2s. And what's interesting, I think, is that there's three potential buyers for the Px8 S2s. The first is the person who's never owned a pair of Bowers Wilkins headphones before, but they have the budget for a fairly expensive pair of noise cancelling headphones. The second is the person who's coming from the original Px8s and they're thinking, I've got itchy feet, I want the new ones, can they be better than what I've already got because these are the best headphones I've ever had? And the third is the person who's looking at the Px8 S3s and thinking, I'll just get them because they're better than the Px8s apparently. How much better can the Px8 S2s be than the Px8 S3s? Let's make this very easy for all of you. So firstly, if you're the first person, if you're brand new to the Bowers Wilkins headphone game and you have the £629, the $799 in your back pocket to spend on a pair of headphones, just buy them. Keep watching this review, obviously, but trust me, they will be the best pair of headphones you've ever heard because the Px8 S2s are the best pair of headphones I've put on my head in terms of audio. That means they sound much better than the original Px8s somehow. And by that, I mean the highs are crisper, the mid-range is beautiful and jumps out at you in the right way, so vocals are very, very front and center as they should be without being tiring. The bass is just controlled and lovely. The size of the sound, by this I don't mean Dolby Atmos, spatial audio, because they don't have spatial audio. This is something that Bowers and Wilkins are working on apparently, and we'll see that at some point. I'm just talking about stereo playback, the width and the volume, not in terms of volume, but the size of the sound on the Px8 S2s is like nothing I've heard before. It's just amazing. So Px8s versus Px8 S2s, they sound much better. It's a generational leap. It's what it should be. It's very, very impressive. As for the Px8 S3s versus these, the difference isn't quite as big as that, but it's still surprising. You don't get quite the same increase in what I said before. So, the highs, mids, and lows, they are better on the Px8 S2s compared to the Px8 S3s. Not quite as big a difference as it was between these two headphones. What is different is that size of the audio, just the overall weight and volume of it. Again, not volume-wise. I hope this is making sense. These are just such a big sounding pair of headphones in the best possible way. And that's the biggest difference between the Px8 S2s and the Px8 S3s. These sound bigger, which isn't audiophile speak, and I'm sure audiophiles are setting fire in the comments down below, but I do not care. This is a consumer view of these headphones. So the Px8 S2s sound much better than the Px8s, and they sound noticeably better than the Px8 S3s. So when it comes to audio, they have nailed it with the Px8 S2s, but there's two other things to think about. Noise cancelling and Bowers and Wilkins is a very interesting topic because unlike a lot of other headphone manufacturers who say these are the best noise cancelling headphones in the universe and that is their main selling point, that isn't the case with Bowers and Wilkins. They err on the side of caution, and the reason for that, if you didn't know, is the fact that the drivers in most ANC headphones look after the ANC and the audio. So if you turn the noise cancelling up a bit too much, in theory, it can have a detrimental impact on the audio performance. Now, that might be imperceptible to most people, including yours truly, but audiophiles and people who buy Bowers and Wilkins stuff may notice that, which is why Bowers and Wilkins say, look, we'll give you what we think is the right amount of ANC, but it won't be too much because the audio is the most important thing. I like that. I've got no problem with that. And the Px8 S2s are better noise cancelling wise than the Px8s, the original ones, and they're on par with the Px8 S3s. They do the job. They get it done. I've worn them on planes, in very busy cafes, walking down the street with wind and stuff coming past my head, and it's dealt with very well. It's not as good as the Sony XM6 because they're the best on the market. Not as good as the AirPods Max, but it gets the job done. And I think if you are the sort of person who values audio above everything else, but you still want a very good pair of noise cancelling headphones, the Px8 S2s will not disappoint in that respect. One thing I have been impressed with is the transparency mode, which is when you let the outside world in. It's definitely better on these compared to the original Px8s, and it's on par with the Px7 S3s. That just means you can hear your voice when you're on telephone calls and be aware of the world around you. It's very good on these, to be honest. It's still not AirPods Max level, but then nothing is. I don't know why, but there you go. That brings me to the calling quality, which I know is very, very important. So I'm going to head out and do a call test on the original Px8s and then the Px8 S2s, and then we'll throw in the original test that I did with the Px7 S3s as well, so you can compare all three, because I know this is important.
Okay, let's start with the Px8 S2s, the brand new pair. Walking down a very busy street, lots of cars coming past, wind hitting the ear cups, quite a test for headphones like this. How are they performing? Let me know in the comments. Just very quickly, the transparency mode is, I think, on par, almost with the AirPods Max. It's not far off, it's really good. It's important because you can hear yourself when you're talking on telephone calls, but yeah, very impressive. As for the calling quality, let me know down below. Let's switch to the originals. Onto the Px8s, and immediately that transparency mode is nowhere near as good. I can barely hear myself, very muffled. Again, same street, very busy in terms of cars coming past, a bit of wind, not quite as much wind this time, but there's a little bit there, a bit of a breeze. Let me know what you think in the comments. Is it an upgrade? Is it a downgrade? Is it the same? I don't know, I've not heard them yet. And now, let's switch to my original test of the Px7 S3s. Walking down a fairly noisy high street, cars coming past. There's wind hitting me in the face as well, so I can hear that on the ear cups. Actually, that's one thing to note immediately. I can definitely hear some wind noise on the ear cups. But let me know what you think about the calling quality in the comments, please. I think this is quite a realistic test. A lot of us do walk down the street and ring people on our headphones. So yeah, let me know what you think.
It's conclusion time, and as I mentioned earlier, if this is your first ever pair of Bowers, or it's going to be your first ever pair of Bowers & Wilkins headphones, and you've got the budget, just get them. You will love the Px8 S2s. There's nothing you won't like about them at all. If you're thinking about coming from the Px8, the original ones, to the brand new ones, I would do it. The audio is significantly better, and there's a reason you're thinking, I want a new pair of headphones, and I don't know where else you'd go beyond these. The competition for the Px8 S2s is almost non-existent. Cue fights down below in the comments. If you are looking between the Px7 S3s and the Px8 S2s, that £230 difference is significant, to be honest, but if you spend that extra money, you're getting a much nicer build. Quality of the components on these is much better than the Px7 S3s. The audio is noticeably better as well, and they're more comfortable, I think. They're a more comfortable pair of headphones than the Px7 S3s. That said, the Px7 S3s are still very, very good for the money, and I can't really tell you which one's better. It comes down to budget at the end of the day, doesn't it? But I think we've reached a point now with Bowers & Wilkins headphones where I'm thinking, what on earth is coming next? What can they do next? It's spatial audio, as I mentioned earlier, they're working on that apparently. That'll be interesting, but in terms of how we get better than this, I don't know. But that's high praise, isn't it? What more can you say? Guys, it's over to you. Let me know in the comments if you're going to be buying yourself a pair of Px8 S2s or the Px7 S3s, or are you sticking with your trusty Px8s? Or are you buying something else? Get involved down below, and if you haven't hit subscribe yet, you know what to do, and give the like thing and do all the stuff if you've enjoyed this video. It makes a massive difference. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you down there.